All right, it is just after 1, so I think we'll get started, everyone. Hopefully you're here for a discovery session talk about energy science. If you are, you're in the right place. If not, you may want to discreetly exit out the back. As I said, for those who just came in, if you're interested in participating, some questions I'm going to ask you, you can scan that QR code. Let me introduce myself. First of all, my name's Ed Say. I'm the head of the Department of Earth, Energy and Environment here at the University of Calgary. And I'm really excited to tell you about this new energy science program that we're launching in fall of 2025. And I'll tell you a little bit about my journey to energy. So I grew up on a farm in west central Saskatchewan. I started early in my career. I was more interested in things like crop growth and soil moisture and water resources and things of that nature. And I didn't pay a lot of attention to energy or the energy usage. And as I progressed through my career, I started working on sustainable resource management in a lot of different areas, largely focused on water initially. But then as I started to work more in my career, I started thinking about, okay, energy resources and what would sort of that look like? So in my teaching, when I came to the University of Calgary, I was asked if I could teach as part of an energy science concentration that currently exists. And that has been the foundation for this new energy science major that I'm going to tell you much more about today. So like I said, I'm excited to tell you about that. But before we begin, when we talk about energy, what does that mean? So again, using our menti.com here, I'd like you to answer for me, if you could, what does energy mean to you? And we're talking largely in the scientific or societal context, less so about me having low energy or high energy. What does energy mean to you? Type in a response. What does that actually mean? Why are you here? What do you know about energy? And what does it mean to you? What is energy? So we've got some answers popping up on the screen. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. We got power, electricity, warmth, life. I love that. ATP. Oh, we get some biologists in the audience, perhaps. Right? Movement. I love this. Work. Excellent. More and more. Creating motion. Sources, life, power. This is awesome. This is awesome. And all of these, again, when we talk in the energy sector, energy means different things to different people. So what is energy? Well, I would argue that energy is everywhere, and it is the world around us. It is the universe around us. Everything is energy. If I asked you right now, stand up, please, and if you did, that takes energy, and we can actually quantify it. In terms of the physics definition, it's the ability to do work. And if work is defined as the ability to move objects, then energy fundamentally is just about how do we move things. But energy has a whole variety of different forms, right? Some of those forms are listed here. And you're probably all familiar with some of them, right? Mechanical energy. The energy of me walking back and forth, that's mechanical energy. You standing up, that would be mechanical energy. You just sitting there, your heart beating. There's an electrical energy in your heartbeat. Where does that come from? That comes from the chemical energy of the food you ate earlier today. You drove here, or you came on transit, or somehow you got here. You walked and used mechanical energy. You could have used fuel energy in chemical energy. You could have driven a car with an electric vehicle, right? Electrical energy. Then we've got other forms, right? We don't think of as much. The sound that you're hearing, me talking right now, that's sound energy reaching your ears. You can, hopefully most of you can see me, right? That's light energy reaching your eyes. We've evolved to be able to process that. Many of you will have a cell phone in your hand, right? Again, it's emitting light energy. It's also using chemical energy in the battery and electricity. Of course, all of these different forms of energy. If we go to more fundamental forms like the sun, the center of our universe, right? We have nuclear energy. We have hydrogen atoms colliding with each other in fusion reactions, emitting all sorts of light. So again, you'll notice I put sun sort of halfway between nuclear and light energy there. So we've got, in terms of scientific definitions, this is the foundation of what we're talking about. So what is energy science then? So energy science is basically the branch of science that deals with energy systems. The sources of energy and the different energy technologies. It deals with the production, the distribution, the transformation, as well as the end use of energy. And that's what this program is all about. We'll think about things like energy demand. How do we use energy? How is energy utilized in the world around us? And that means it has social impacts and it has environmental impacts. So again, those are all part of what we view as the science of energy science. And that's what this program is about. So let's get into some of the specifics. We have this new energy science program. It was driven out of student and industry demand. People saying, okay, what does the future of energy look like? What is this global energy transformation? We need people. In fact, we're hearing a lot, we'll talk about it more. We need the need for highly skilled people in this energy sector, right? But where are they going to come from? Well, the intent here is that we're going to build the first program of its kind where we focus on those foundational science concepts. So it gives students the science they need to understand what energy it is, how it's transformed. Then we're going to look into those societal impacts. Again, we make decisions around energy, right? That influences our lives, your lives, my lives. All of those things might depend on economics, environmental considerations, social, cultural, a whole bunch of different things. So all of that will be integrated into this particular program. Therefore, this program is interdisciplinary by its very nature, right? So we're going to cross a whole bunch of different disciplines. At the same time, we hear that, again, we need a highly skilled workforce in this area. So there's a large focus on skill development. Again, some of them technical skills, some of them softer skills, like say communication as an example, which I'm doing right now. And then, of course, we want to give students practical experience. So there's a capstone project built into it, and I'll touch on that in a little bit more detail in a second. So what courses do we have in this program? So it starts with that foundational science in the top left that you see here. So you're going to take a very similar first year as many other science students. You're going to get your fundamental sort of math, chemistry, physics. Then there's some other courses where you can select from, for example, earth, biology, environment courses. There's an introduction to energy course. There's a course on energy transformations that students are going to take a little later in their program, as well as a course on climate change processes, adaptation, and mitigation. Then if we move down into the interdisciplinary aspects, again, we think some of those are foundational as well. You can't make decisions about energy without talking about the social consequences, the policy issues around it, the maybe indigenous perspectives, the community engagement piece. So all of that's wrapped up in courses around economics, indigenous studies, and communications. And then if we go to the top right, again, going back to that skill development, includes some of those same things. You can be the smartest person in the world, but if you can't communicate effectively to someone else, what good is that knowledge, right? So there's two different communication courses built into this, one on scientific writing, one on technical communication. And then, like I said, towards the end, we're going to build on a capstone project. And in that project, we've offered students flexibility. They can do it as a group study course, so they basically sign up for a course and take it and do it as part of a team. They can do it as an independent research project with an individual professor who might be researching in a variety of different energy technologies, or they can do it as part of a work-integrated learning program and get credit for, say, a co-op program as part of their capstone experience. Then we have some energy-related options. Again, this is interdisciplinary by nature, so we want students taking some courses, in this case, a wide selection of science and non-science courses. There's courses in geoscience, physics, chemistry that have an energy component that you might be interested in, and then there's lots elsewhere on campus. The history of energy, marketing, business, economics. Maybe you're interested in that, right? Again, all of those are eligible for those energy-related options. And then we also want to make sure we leave students flexibility. So we have open electives, right? That those last 15 courses are open electives that include science breadth, but they enable you, maybe you want to do a minor in business, maybe you want to do a minor in another area. It enables that as well as part of this program. The one thing that I didn't mention on the previous slide was once you have that foundational science, we have what's called core energy topics. And these are just some of the examples. So students will select 6 core energy topics that they want to study, and they can do more as part of their electives as well. But this would include courses that are already on the books, like solar, wind, geothermal is the one that I happen to teach a fair bit. I've also taught hydroelectric, courses on fuel cells, nuclear, right? But for example, if we're talking about fuel cells, where is all this material going to come from? We hear a lot about critical minerals, so there's a critical minerals course incorporated in here as well. And of course, where are we coming from? We're coming from a world where by far the largest usage is oil and gas, right? So there's a hydrocarbon resource course for students to understand that component too. We want students to be able to speak about all energy technologies as part of this program. And this is a good example. So here's another question for you. Break out your phone again. And I might ask a student in their capstone this. Okay, which one of these gives me the highest energy content? I don't expect you to necessarily know this answer, but I would expect our students to be able to answer this question. Think about it. If I covered your garage with solar panels and then took all of the energy captured by those solar panels for the month of July, how much energy would I get? How does that compare to if I took your same garage and filled it with car batteries that were fully charged? How much energy can you get from those? Versus 1 drum of gasoline, the chemical energy in that. How much is there? Versus 1 fuel pellet of uranium that goes into a nuclear reactor. They're roughly the size of a gummy bear or a marble or so. How much energy is there? Versus the last one on the right, hydroelectric. In fact, hydroelectric is the #1 source of electricity in Canada, right? So what if I took an Olympic-sized swimming pool, right, and dropped it 10 meters, 3 stories? How much energy can that produce? What's the gravitational energy in that? So which one of these do you think? Answer as best you can. Give me your opinion. I see lots of people weighing in. It seems like the leading contenders so far are nuclear and hydroelectric. Like I said, I don't necessarily expect everyone here to know the correct answer, but I'm glad the vast majority of you did. So in fact, the correct answer is that nuclear pellet, right? And in fact, that nuclear pellet has more energy than all of those other sources combined by a wide margin. Okay, so again, these are the types of things. We need students to be able to speak and make these comparisons and understand the consequences. So what are the learning outcomes then from the program? You see them listed here. On the left, we focus largely on the more technical side of it. So we've got fundamental science and understanding energy concepts of future energy systems. What are the energy technologies of the future and how are they going to be applied? We want students to be able to do research and analysis, right? So data science, statistics, those are important components in today's world. And then, like I said, those social elements. So wrapped up, these are some of the program learning outcomes, and wrapped up in each one of those, there would be actually a series of sub-learning outcomes associated with each one of those. And then on the right-hand side, we have some additional ones around, again, that more skill-based communication, teamwork, community engagement, understanding indigenous perspectives for energy development, understanding business and entrepreneurship. The University of Calgary, many people don't know, is the #1 startup generator among universities in Canada. Again, 3 years in a row and by a wide margin. And again, we expect that to continue into the future, and we hope that some of the people through this program will be involved in that as well. The #1 question I get asked, where am I going to get a job? What are the career paths, right? Why choose a career in energy science? And you can see from the breadth of the things that I've already mentioned that there is a wide variety of career pathways. There's good paying jobs in influential careers in a whole variety of different areas. Maybe you're interested in more about creating a sustainable future. That's great. Maybe you love to work outdoors, or maybe you don't, right? We have jobs for both, right? You can do either one. Maybe you care about security, right? Maybe you want to work as a part of a team. Maybe you don't. Maybe you want to work alone, right? All sorts of different opportunities. And I'll expand on with some specific examples in just a little bit. But really, energy has a global perspective. We talk about our global energy future, but a lot of the solutions are very local, right? So we want to make sure that there's opportunities that are being driven by global markets, but really we need local solutions to the problem. So just to give you an example, this is a report that comes out every couple of years from the World Energy Employment, and they look at where's the growth in energy careers, and they cover all energy careers. And in 2022, clean energy technologies surpassed oil and gas as the #1 employer around the globe, and these were the top 5 growth areas, and you can read them. They're some of the ones that you might expect, like solar and wind, and electric vehicles. But again, as I said, where do those materials come from for those electric vehicles? Well, they come from critical mineral supplies. So again, a lot of growth in that area. And then one that not a lot of people think of is heat pumps. So in my course on geothermal energy, we talk about ground source heat pumps, which have a lot of potential in climates like ours in Calgary and other parts of the world. And I'm going to read you one little piece from this report. The number of workers pursuing degrees or certifications relevant to energy sector jobs is not keeping pace with growing demand. This is particularly the case for those specialized for energy sector work, including professionals in science, technology, and engineering. Again, a lot of demand, a lot of growth, and we need to be able to meet that. And we think we will with this new program. So, as specific examples of career opportunities, I'm going to present to you 5 different hypothetical people. But all of these hypothetical people are actually based on real-world people that we know. Some have gone through our program previously, others are involved in the program now. So let's talk about Lois. Lois is an energy policy analyst. What does Lois do? She's a policy advisor for both traditional and emerging energy technologies. She created an energy policy simulator. What is that? Well, it basically looks at, if we make policy decisions, what repercussions does that have in the energy sector? What does that mean for growth in one sector? What does that mean in terms of costing? What does that mean in terms of environmental impact? What does that mean in terms of emissions reductions? All of those sort of things factor in there. And she also does research on science-informed policy solutions with the Canadian regulatory and legal framework. So like I said, energy science isn't just about understanding the technical pieces, it's about how do you translate that in the real world? How do you start to make decisions about what the future of our energy system is going to look like? So Lois is one example. Another one would be Jin. So like I said, critical minerals. This would largely be what people would call the mining sector. So Jin works on sourcing materials and then does life cycle analysis of some of those materials. Like I said, largely working in the mining sector, and he creates solutions to reduce waste and optimize processes so that we can enhance our critical mineral supply. And Canada, if you're not aware, has invested $4 billion in its critical mineral strategy, right? And it also has another 1.5 in what's called the Critical Infrastructure Fund, 1.5 billion. So in total, $5.5 billion is being spent on ensuring we have a stable and secure critical mineral supply. And some would expand, it's not just minerals, critical elements or critical materials. As I mentioned before, I teach the geothermal energy course. So there's an example that I want to give you, but one of the questions I would ask the student is, if I walked outside the building right now today, let's go do that, okay, and I took a drill rig and I said, put a hole 3.5 kilometers down. What temperature would I expect at the bottom of that hole? Pretty simple question. And again, it's clearly being heated by a giant fire-breathing dragon inside the earth, in case anybody watches sci-fi. What is the temperature at 3.5 kilometers depth? So we have a couple people. Oh, we got a race now. We got a race between 100 and 300. That's good. Let's wait for a few more answers. Who's going to put us over the top? Oh, 100's winning. We got a few coming in at 50 and as many as 1,000. This is good. I love this. Okay, so our geothermal gradient, it's called, is the change in temperature with depth, typically around 25 degrees Celsius per kilometer that we drill. So if we start with a surface temperature like today, maybe 10 degrees, and we add 25 degrees Celsius per kilometer, we end up with it, in this case, roughly about 100 degrees Celsius at the 3.5 kilometers depth. So excellent. People know their stuff. But what are the consequences of this? Why do we even care about this? So someone like Samir here cares about this because Samir studies subsurface energy systems from a clean energy perspective. And when we're making decisions, like, it doesn't matter what's flowing through the pores in the ground, whether that's oil and gas or water or steam or hydrogen or anything else, right? It's all the same fundamental science and physics, but then what Samir does is actually model those systems to try to compare them to optimize what does this mean for different energy transition options. That could include things like carbon capture and storage. Maybe we're going to inject carbon into the subsurface. How are we going to do that? Maybe we're going to store hydrogen. Maybe we're going to pull hydrogen directly out of the ground from some of the hydrocarbon reservoirs, so leave the carbon in place and see if we can pull just the hydrogen directly as a cleaner fuel option. Again, all of these are part of the things. And again, a very technical job in this particular example with the computer simulations. Here's another example. We've got Axel. Axel is actually based on a former student in our program who went on to complete an MBA and really used it to study energy systems, right? So does scientific feasibility and scalability analysis of clean energy technologies for investment purposes, for business purposes. Really tries to decide, because there's a lot of investment. If you look at where the global money is coming in terms of energy technologies, a lot of it's moving into this renewable sector, but people are making decisions. Are they going to invest in wind or solar or geothermal or carbon capture or elsewhere, right? What does that actually look like? So Axel does this as part of his job, and also happens to be a really passionate energy educator and energy communicator. The last person on this list is Merlinda. Merlinda studies solar systems in both Canada as well as developing nations and tries to integrate solar into basically whatever energy grid is available. So in this case, it means understanding solar panels. It means understanding the electricity generation, transmission, and storage network, right? Which is a really complex thing on its own. So again, we want to make sure that our students understand that, but also integrates other energy technologies into that. So for an example, if anybody here lives in Okotoks, there's an example there of a combined solar and geothermal system. It's not a photovoltaic system. They're actually heating water, injecting it into the ground, using it as stored, and then withdrawing it later, right? So again, there's all sorts of opportunities to integrate across these systems. So what's the future of energy science? In my view, the future of energy science is you. Just put a mirror right in front of your face, right? Or your child's face if you're here with them, right? The lovely little image on the left was created with an AI image generator, so it's not perfect, but it gives you this example of the different types of energy technologies. Again, we want people to understand all of them. And we need the people who are going to be the superheroes of our energy future, right, to design these energy systems. And my hope is that a few of you in this room today, right, see yourself in this program. And you see yourself walking across the stage. There's people from our convocation in science. And in 4 years, I would love to be up on stage, shaking your hand and saying, congratulations, you're the first cohort out of our energy science program here at the University of Calgary. Good luck with the rest of your career, and we'd love to hear more about it. Sort of thing. So with that, I will stop talking, give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. But before we do that, I just want to ask you, what excites you about energy science? You obviously came here today because you have an interest in energy and energy issues. Where does that interest lie? What sort of exciting technologies are you interested in? What sort of career pathways do you envision yourself doing? What do you want to do for the rest of your life? Right? So answer that question for me if you could, please. I'm curious, why are people here? Creating a more sustainable and affordable future for Canadians. Excellent. Anyone else want to weigh in? People are a little more shy with this particular question. Putting yourself out there. Excited about the options. Excellent. Future jobs. Hydrogen. Absolutely. I didn't even touch on hydrogen, right? Hydrogen's a really unique example of one that's not I would argue, not a technology unto its own, but it's actually a storage vehicle for other sources of energy. And it enables us to do so many different things. Being a change maker, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people who want to, if you looked at these hats all day, these really bright hats, by the way, right? Get science done. That's what this is about. Okay? So, again, thank you very much for your attention today. Like I said, so excited to speak about this program. I'm happy to stick around and answer questions. I've got a couple of brochures about the energy science program. If you didn't already grab one from the gym or earlier, if you didn't get there, feel free to come on down and grab one. But I'll open the floor to questions if anyone has them.
Is the co-op program also available? You alluded to it quickly
Yeah.
earlier on.
Yes. Yeah, so the question was, is the co-op program eligible in this? And the short answer is yes. All Faculty of Science programs are eligible for co-op, and what I was talking about specifically is you can use that co-op as part of the credit for your capstone experience as part of the program. Yeah. Good question. Someone else, I thought I saw a hand up temporarily. Anyone else have questions? So what's the average to get in? That's a good question. Because this is the first time that we're offering it, we don't actually know yet. We're going to see, because again, it depends on how many applicants we get, and it'll be capped at roughly 125 students. That's how many students we think we can accommodate. So it depends on how many applicants. I expect, based on applications in other areas of science, it'll likely be in the low to mid 80s, I would expect. But again, don't quote me on that one because we don't know. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, is the program?
Like for early entry?
Yes, the program is eligible for early entry. So again, I always encourage students to apply as soon as you can. And if you're eligible for the program and you get in, yes, it is part of the early entry experience. There was a question at the back. So what's the difference between this program and environmental engineering? In fact, that's a really good question because there's a fair bit of overlap. So for example, the environmental engineering students actually come over and take our topics courses. And previously, in the previous energy science iteration, the capstone project that we had was joint with engineering. In this case, we're going to separate those now because we simply can't accommodate that many students. There's been so much demand in their program as well as our program. So it is a standalone program. It's a little bit more focused on this, obviously science as opposed to sort of design systems. It's more about the fundamental science and the technologies behind it. The other piece is it's probably a little bit more, in my view anyway, a little bit more well-rounded in terms of incorporating aspects like economics. There's a policy course, the indigenous perspectives, the communication aspects, not just one, but two courses around that. And again, some other elements that you can weave in as part of your electives as well if you choose to. So
it's not the same case with, for example, with geology?
Yes.
Well, we see a lot of this, but this has more applications into the future.
Yes. So the question is, how does this compare to geology? So if you were over in the gym this morning, so I mentioned at the start, I'm the head of Department of Earth, Energy, and Environment. Each one of those E's is a separate degree program, but they're all housed within our department. So our Earth program is our geoscience program. So again, it's still on offer. It's still a standalone program, and it's designed largely for students who want to focus on that geoscience aspects. So someone like Samir, in my example here, would have gone potentially previously through the geoscience program, as compared to this energy program, where it's much, much broader than that in terms of the energy topic. So in our Earth program, students do look at energy, but they largely do it from the subsurface perspective. So they can take the course on geothermal, or hydrocarbons, carbon capture and storage, climate, all of that sort of thing. But it has a slightly different perspective, as opposed to the energy science program here, which is designed to be much more broad in terms of all of the different energy technologies and giving students that perspective. And if you're worried about accreditation, so the students in the geoscience program or the Earth program are eligible for APEGA accreditation as a professional geoscientist. Currently, there is no such accreditation for energy. It doesn't exist, sort of thing. My hope is at some point in the future it will actually become an accredited body unto its own, but that's a much longer conversation. Great question. Any other comments or questions? Oh, sorry.
So under that umbrella of all three of them, if you start off in one,
Yeah.
just pick environmental science.
Sure.
Then you kind of go after your first year, you're like, oh, maybe I do like the energy one. Like, is it easy to transfer over? Is it one that's better to start with?
Yeah, so across the Faculty of Science, most science programs are relatively straightforward to, you can transfer out of anything into anything else. So for example, and they often have a lot of commonality in their first year courses. So as an example, students in the energy program are going to take 2 maths, 2 physics, they're going to take chemistries, which is the exact same ones that the geoscience majors are taking, right? There tend to be often 2 or 3 courses that are a little distinct. So for example, in the energy science program, in first year, students are going to take the new Energy Science 201, which is the introduction to energy, as opposed to other students in, say, the Earth stream would be taking the Earth 210. As it happens, again, as you start to look at the overlap, Earth 210 students can actually get credit for that as part of their energy science program, and we envision that the opposite is also true, that if they took the Energy Science 201 and then switched over to Earth, they would actually get credit for that as one of their science breadth options. So yes, there's a lot of flexibility, and that's what I encourage students to do, is once you're in a program, if you see something else that you might think is a little bit better and more aligned with your interest, yes, there's a lot of flexibility in terms of switching. As an example, in our Earth program, again, we don't know the numbers of what it's going to look like for energy science yet, but for our Earth program, roughly half of our students come from switching after first year, because there is no geoscience course in high school, right? People are used to taking biology, physics, chemistry, math, computer science even, but you don't get a geoscience course, right? And then they come in and they take Earth 210. By the way, if you're interested, there's a little session down the hall where you can learn more about some of the labs in it, but I digress. And students take it and they go, wow, it's a lot different than I thought it was. It's not just rocks. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not just rocks. It is a really exciting program. And like I said, half of our students switch in typically after first year. Any other questions? Great. If not, again, feel free to come up and talk to me afterwards. Happy to answer any questions there. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate and your participation as part of this. So enjoy the rest of your day, sort of thing.